I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the flag pledge. Pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By chance that silver one coffee or is it all water?
Coffee.
Okay, could I please have some coffee? Have my allocation for them.
I'm not sure if I know how to do it or not.
Anybody else wants?
Alrighty. Introduction and welcome new members. Since we only have one member and he's a return, we'll have him raise his hand. Eugene Hansen, back for more. Everyone else the same as it was here before. And you said they're looking for more, or they got some more people in? Okay,
Did we, applicants?
get an applicant. Come on up and you're next anyway, so come on up and talk.
The personnel and human, or the personnel department rather, runs the Citizen Advisory Committee search. And my understanding is that they have at least one applicant. So the next county board meeting, one or however many they have by then, will come before the county board. So for March, you'll have a full contingent.
Thank you. And you're up next.
Okay, so as recording secretary of the Planning Commission, each year it is my pleasure to run the elections for chair, and then the gavel passes to the chair to elect a vice chair. So at this time, I would like to open the nominations for chair for the 2023 Planning Commission. Louis?
I would like to nominate Mark Clark.
I'll second that.
We don't have to have a second at this time, but thank you for that.
Okay.
For the second time, any nominations for chair for the Planning Commission? Hearing none. For the third time, any nominations for chair for the Planning Commission?
I move that we close nominations and cast the unanimous ballot for Mark.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Chair. You're now Mr. Chair again. And you can run the election for the vice chair. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any motion for a vice chair? Louis?
I'd move Mike Flynn.
Hey, Mike Flynn has been nominated as vice chair. Is there anybody else would nominate someone for vice chair?
I nominate Jordan.
Can I, as the liaison, do that exactly?
I think you're a full member.
Okay. Is there any other nominations for vice chair? Fourth and final time. Any other nominations? Okay. All right. How do we do this then?
Start with the first one.
Start with the first one. All those who are in favor of Louis, raise your hand, please.
Wait.
Mike
Mike.
Flynn.
Mike,
Louis made the motion.
Louis made the motion. Yeah, of Louis' motion for Mike Flynn. Been a long week.
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye or raise your hand, please, because we'll have to, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. For all those in favor of Jordan Potter, please raise your hand. And Mike Flynn is the vice chair. Secretary, is there anyone make a motion for someone to be secretary? Do you want to go through what secretary does? Since I didn't know they did anything at all.
Our department does the acting secretary work, but, should we require any assistance, or should both the chair and vice chair be unable to run the meeting, then the secretary would run the meeting.
I'd nominate, Mr. Chair, I'd nominate Lynn Carlson.
There's a nomination for Lynn Carlson. Is there any other nominations for secretary? Any other nominations for secretary? Third and final time, any other nominations for secretary?
I move we close nominations and cast the unanimous ballot for Lynn Carlson.
There's a motion and I'll second it.
Second.
To close the nomination and make Lynn Carlson the secretary. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passed. Congratulations, Lynn. All right, agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Louis and a second by Jordan to approve the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passed. Approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Well, I should have said the amended agenda, correct?
I don't think we'll hold you responsible for it.
Comments?
As long as that's friendly on all sides, we'll put the amended agenda. Okay, approval of minutes from December 15th, 2022.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from December, whatever it is.
Eugene made the motion to approve the minutes and Louis seconded it. Any discussion about the minutes? Okay,
Question, and I know we've gone through this on various levels. It does report that I was absent, but I was present on the phone due to COVID. So I'm okay being absent, but I know at the county level, we've, and other subcommittees that I'm on, if you, in particular, like the Housing Redevelopment Authority, they post on their agenda of those of us that are sitting in our, own homes on the agenda, and it's still been okay. So I'm not, I thought you were allowed, but maybe it didn't get time to post where I was or something.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the situation. because
Okay.
of Illness before, coming up after we posted.
Posted it.
But what we have done in the past, Commissioner Ward, is state that attended but was not voted
Sure.
because we put in.
Yeah, well, and that's fine, because one meeting back last year, Commissioner Kavesi was on a bus coming from Chicago. And nobody could join her on the bus because it wasn't making any stops. But it was, well, we had, she was supposed to, well, we verbally noticed it, that she was on the bus, yeah. So I mean, it's just a little technicality. Thank you.
okay, all those in favor of the minutes are okay, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passed. Rules and procedures, annual review and adoption of the rules of procedure.
So I believe this can be found in your binders right before the new petition. There has been discussion about possibly doing a slight amendment to page 2, section 3, under parliamentary procedure. It had been pointed out by one of your members that there might be some language that should be updated. In that, the sentence, parliamentary procedure governed by Robert's Rules of Order shall be followed at meetings where hearings are held. But notwithstanding, and it doesn't say that, state laws and county ordinances, where they conflict, shall prevail. And we don't have that language in right now. And this body might want to consider that as an addition. There might be other things that each of you have found, but that might be one that could be recommended.
Notwithstanding state laws and county ordinances, what was the rest of it?
Right. Yeah, that was
Over.
kind of an awkwardly worded on the fly by me. You probably can do better. We
Where's
just,
our Where's Stephanie? Can she come up with a better
Probably
verbiage
with her
than that?
baby.
Well, she is, but she's online.
I think is she there?
I think. Stephanie, are you there?
I'm here.
Can you come up with a better terminology than that?
I'm looking at the language right now. Let's see.
Okay.
And is it even Robert's Rules of Order? Or is it modified? They're always changing. Then there's abbreviated and there's full-fledged Robert's
It should
Rules.
be
and
the current edition.
The current edition. Current
Yeah,
version.
like current edition, except where it's in. Kate, can you remind me again which page of the packet that's on?
10,
Section 10.
There we
Two.
go. Okay. Hearing-
section 3, 3.1.
3.1.
Got it. Parliamentary procedure shall be followed at meetings, special meetings. I think what Kay is essentially proposing would be reasonable. So parliamentary procedure governed by Robert's Rules of Order shall be followed at meetings where hearings are held. And then except wearing
A state
state
statute. or
statutes
zoning
or,
statute.
yep, state statutes shall, Anne sent me a copy of it. But state statutes, except where in conflict with state statutes, and then state statutes would prevail.
Local ordinances in there somewhere as well? County ordinance?
We can put county ordinance in there. I'm trying to think of whether there's situations where our county ordinances are generally in conflict, but I think we can safely put county ordinances in and have those control. And
Shall control then on the end.
Okay, can we get a rereading on what we're supposed to be
Yes.
deliberating?
yep. So does somebody have it up there, or otherwise I can share my screen if you give me just a minute.
Okay.
So this is without your screen. And I've got screen sharing locked. If you can unlock that for me. Thank you.
Lights come on.
The wind started blowing again.
There's a motion.
There we go.
So what I've got is parliamentary procedure governed by Robert's Rules of Order shall be followed at meetings where meetings are held except where in conflict with state statute or county ordinance, which will then control.
Okay. We need a motion to
I
that
will
effect.
motion to adopt that.
Jordan made the motion and Louis seconded it. Any other discussion? Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Passed. Or anyone opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Okay. Yes, then we have to do the whole procedures.
Second that.
Anything, okay. Louis made the motion to approve the procedures as amended. And Jordan seconded it. Any other discussion with the procedures? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposing, please say no. Motion passed. We have the same or the new rules of procedure. Okay. Petitions. Docket PC 21623-1. To consider the petition of Clinton and Megan Cabell, who seek a conditional interim use permit for the for their dwelling and all that good stuff. Louis, are you up on this one? Because you're the only one in the
We're
room?
talking to Louis.
No, Lou.
There's Louis and there's Lou.
Louis.
I'll go by Louis.
Okay.
It's fine.
Louis. I'm old.
Kay's just bringing up the presentation here. I noticed that I had it labeled wrong, so we're fixing that real quick. My apologies. While we're waiting for that, just wanted to draw everybody's attention. I know you all have that in front of you, but there were 3 comments that were made from the public, and we printed those out, and they're on the desk in front of you. I hope you've had time to look through those. If anybody needs more time to read them, let us know, and we can provide that. With that, we'll get started. The reason we're here tonight is for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a new dwelling on less than 40 acres in the ARC zoning district pursuant to chapter 10.4.636 of the Winona County zoning ordinance. Should also be pursuant to the Mississippi River Bluffs overlay district, which should be in your packets on in the staff report. There's actually 3 pieces here tonight. There's the less than 40 acres. It's a 3.6 roughly acre parcel. It's within 300 feet of the top of the bluff, which triggers a CUP in the Mississippi River Bluffs overlay district. And the proposed dwelling site is also on slopes that are between 12 and 18%. The Mississippi River Bluffs overlay district has a maximum slope of 18%. And anything between 12 and 18 requires a conditional use permit. So there's those 3 triggering mechanisms that require a CUP, which is why we're here tonight. They're all the same criteria. So there's one staff report and one set of criteria that we looked at the petition under. That said, the location is in Dresbach Township. You can see in the aerial photo here, there's Queens Cove subdivision on the southeast corner. You see County Road 1 is the orange line running through. And Highway 61 is the red line along the river. This parcel or this map also shows a nice view of the parent parcel that this parcel was split off of last year. It's the long rectangular one just to the east there that Kay's cursor is going around. So you can see they split off, the property owner split off this piece of the parcel because it was kind of a remnant or leftover piece that was on the other side of County Road 1. I know that from their perspective, they were having trouble. They didn't want to have to maintain it or deal with the piece that was on the other side of the road. So they split it and put it for sale last year. In the meantime, the Cableys have purchased it and now they're moving forward with their proposal. So. Okay. There was a long delay earlier today too. So next slide. So yeah, 3.6 acre parcel. The parent parcel was 105.28 acres. You can see this is a little closer view of the neighborhood and the vicinity near the parcel. Development pattern along that area of County Road 1. You can see a number of roughly 5 acre parcels with building sites on them. Currently, as well as the parent parcel, the farmstead there down in the valley is to the east, to the right on the screen. Next slide. This slide shows the building setback line of 130 feet in red. The Board of Adjustments heard a variance petition this afternoon, which they granted for a 90-foot setback instead of the required 130 feet. So you can see the proposed wood shop there was the piece that they were considering this afternoon. And then tonight it'll be the proposed dwelling before you all. The wood shop, just for reference, was 45 feet by 60 feet. Next slide. So this slide's going to show the MRB pieces that require the CUP. Proposed dwelling within Mississippi River Bluffs, within 300 feet of the top of the bluff. The blue shaded areas are mapped bluff areas. And then the blue line there is the 300-foot buffer from that. So that's showing the area of 300 feet from the top of the bluff and the proposed dwelling within that. Slopes within the MRB are also between 12 and 18%, require a CUP. And the slopes across the proposed dwelling site are around 16%. So the upper side of that that area. Next slide. Things to consider on the site. The parcel was created in 2022, like I mentioned. It's a agricultural resource conservation zoning district. There is a home occupation that's centered around the wood shop, which you'll see in your comments came up quite a bit. I think a lot of those comments pertained a lot to the Board of Adjustment petition from earlier today. But many of them were applicable to this as well. That home occupation is a permitted use from what we know and what they've presented to us. The Mississippi River Bluffs Overlay District contains a number of additional standards that aren't considered or included elsewhere in the ordinance. Things like lighting, building materials, vegetation are all considered when looking at developing a site. County Road 1 is a scenic byway, Apple Blossom Drive. And just for an FYI, the road right of way is 50 feet from center line in this section of the Apple Blossom. Next slide. I have a couple of photos here. The little inset map shows where the photo was being taken of. So this is of the wood shop's location. We go to the next slide. We should be able to see. Well, actually, I think let's go back to that last one. So the arrow's in the wrong location. This is actually of the proposed dwelling site. So this is down the hill a little ways, showing the dwelling site location. So that little arrow there should be down the hillside a little ways, but still facing to the northwest from that vantage point. Next slide. Stephanie, if you want to mute your
Baby.
your baby. We appreciate hearing your baby. It's nice.
Baby sounds happy.
So this photo is just of the street to the front of the building side, the parcel on the right there. You can see the existing tree line would be retained in some of the forest, what that looks like today. The access would be kind of would be in the middle of that picture there along County Road 1. Next photo or next slide. Along with the comments that you have before you tonight, we also have a township acknowledgement form. The Dresbach Township indicated no comments on that form that was submitted to us. Next slide. As always, your job is to consider all the testimony and the whole record before you and especially the criteria and make a decision based on those factors. If you decide to support the granting the petition or approve the petition, then we have, I believe, 3 conditions for your consideration.
5.
No, 5. 5 conditions for your consideration. That's all that I have for you at this time. You have any questions for me, Eugene?
Going back, and can you show me more definitively where this access is supposed to be?
Sure. You want to go back to the photo? You can do that second photo there, the next slide right there. I'll just step over here. The access is right here.
Okay.
Kind of see a little bit of a embankment right here. That's from they had plowed an access right there. Highway Department did review the petition as well, including the access, and had no problems with that piece of it. I believe that they have issued a driveway access permit already for the site.
Okay. And then I guess my next question would be, in regards to the woodworking shop, is there any a picture or anything of the existing vegetation between that and County Road 1?
I mean, this is a pretty good picture here. The vegetation that's between there is really that line of conifers, and then some undergrowth, some shrubs that are there. There might be some invasive species. I'm not sure. The petitioners could probably talk a little bit better about that. I know that they do have some plans for quite a bit of plans for vegetation on the site as well. So they could probably let you know what they're planning.
Okay, thank you.
Lou,
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember a petition quite some time ago. People wanted to build on a bluff top. They were wanting to do stargazing. She was a astronomer or something.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and I thought there was a vertical height limit with lights and buildings.
So the lighting limit is 8 feet high and it has to be downcast, is what the ordinance says.
Okay.
So no exterior lights higher than 8 feet, and it must be downcast.
But there wasn't a vertical height restriction for structure on a bluff top.
Correct. The height restriction for structures is the same as anywhere else in the county for residential structures, which is 35 feet.
Helping me remember that.
Yep.
Should we get into all our questions now, or?
Anybody else have any questions for Lou before we
You'll have time later too. You
Yeah,
might
we
want to
have
hear from the
plenty of time.
petitioners, but I mean.
want to hear from the
yes.
Said
petitioners
something
first?
about
This is just for
road 90 feet, and I thought Dave Kramer gave me 130 feet, and the red line is 130 feet. What's your 90?
The red line is 130 feet. That's what the setback requirement is along this portion of County Road 1.
Right,
The variance was to allow the structure 90 feet from center line instead of the 130 feet.
okay.
Just
So
to
that's
correct,
what
to
was-
make sure we understand, we are not here for the wood shop at all. The wood shop is done. We are only here
No.
for the house. Yes, we are,
I
correct?
disagree. I
The,
disagree.
the wood shop
disagree.
was part of the Board of Adjustment. We have no say in the wood shop whatsoever. We're here for the house, for the building on slopes, and what was the third thing?
Coach?
In the lot on less
And
than
a lot
less
of
than
less
40
than
acres.
40 acres. Them are the 3 things we're here for. We are not here one bit for the wood shop. That's done.
Well, the wood shop ties into the whole project.
But we have nothing to do with it.
Well, I feel there's maybe some difference of interpretation. Most of the time, when you ask to do a business in the rural area, and these are both there was reference this afternoon, there's two businesses, Westwood Fine Carpentry and some other Resource Vintage Rental, which are LLCs, limited liability corporations. So as they're recognized as corporations operating out of this particular building, I have a question of why we're not asking them to get a conditional use permit, just like anybody that wants to start a little meat market on the farm or a vegetable stand or
That
something.
would be
I
a
didn't
question for
understand.
the petitioner.
Well,
probably.
no,
can-
that's an interpretation from
Yeah,
staff.
I can feel that one. The ordinance has a threshold for requiring conditional use permits. So home occupations, if it meets certain criteria, can be considered a permitted use. And if they don't meet those criteria, I believe there's 4, then it's considered a conditional use permit. So in general, if you're having, if it's retail, if you are asking people to come to your property as part of your business, that would be a trigger for a conditional use permit, because it opens up a whole another set of concerns and issues that might need to be worked through, such as parking and, signage and ADA,
Right.
compliance and things like that. If you have more than another trigger is if you have more than one employee outside of the household. So you are allowed one employee on the site in addition to members of the household. If you're more than one employee, that's also a trigger for requiring a conditional use permit. This particular situation would not trigger the need for a conditional use permit. So.
And can you tell me, later, I want to read that in the ordinance, because that is a contentious issue with some of the neighbors, is that it's being portrayed as just a shop that works, but there are other businesses that are related to it. And that is a major concern. Is this going to turn into down the road, something more than it's originally built for? And when you have an LLC, that's a structured corporation.
I just wanted to say that I think the petitioners did a good job earlier today of explaining the depth of both businesses in a way that made it pretty clear that that shouldn't be an issue, but I'll let them explain that.
Yeah, I can.
But
Anyone else have a
initially-
question for Lou?
Initially, and it may change and evolve. Let's see. I'm sorry, with the woodshed, of course, we haven't got plans yet. Is there going to be any water and sewer needs on that would relate to the house and the septic system and everything for the parcel? Do we
If
know
there
that yet?
are, we'd make sure that they were meeting Minnesota state rules. And
We don't know
ordinance.
that yet at this point, though, if there's any water in the proposed wood shop.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
Woodworking doesn't require any water, and I guess I can ask the petitioners.
In the future, they could always add it.
Right,
And then
so
they
you
have
got
to be
CUP.
usually water in a wood shop like that, unless there's a bathroom. Even a bathroom doesn't really add to the sizing issue with the septic system, so it's really just a matter of connecting it.
Okay. And this is
And a
in
permit would
general,
be
it's a
required.
very general thing, and I think I want planning department I'm seeing sheds pop up, and they look like agricultural sheds, but I'm also seeing very nice sliding glass doors, very nice windows and everything. And I think there's going to be a trend for people to live in their sheds, which I don't have a problem with. But again, I think it's something we need to be aware of.
Why don't we move through the public hearing and then your time for discussion is
Okay.
after that?
Yes.
That
Yep.
might be the more
Right now,
appropriate time.
Kay has something.
Kay has a
Yeah.
Augment staff, because I had a moment to look for the specific language requested.
By one of your members, Commissioner Ward. In the zoning ordinance 9.12.2 permitted uses, home occupations meeting all of the following standards shall be a permitted use in the ag resource districts. Home occupations employing not more than one member other than members of the household on the premises. Home occupations selling articles made on the premises. Home occupations which involve only the selling of goods and services off the premises, and home occupations with no outdoor storage of materials. That is the extent of the Chapter 9. And this Chapter 9 portion is referenced in the Ag Resource District zoning as well. So they're cross-referenced with one another in the zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, would the petitioner like to come up and please tell your side of the story? Be ready for questions, because it sounds like you're gonna get a
That's just fine. My name is Clint Cabley. I live at 1008 Juniper Street in La Crescent, Minnesota.
My name is Megan Cabley. I also live at 1008 Juniper Street in La Crescent.
You look familiar for some reason, and I can't put my finger
Not
on it.
being used.
I guess maybe you could just start with, I am the owner and operator of Westwood Fine Carpentry. And I'm the only member of that LLC, so I don't have any employees. Megan and I also own and operate Resource Vintage Rental LLC, which is an event rental business that we rent items mostly to weddings, but also to other corporate events and parties and that sort of thing. We have a large storage facility that we rent for that in West Salem, Wisconsin. And that's where we primarily operate that business out of, is out of there, as well as out of our home, as using our home as an office. So the purpose and intent of the wood shop, and just to add, I currently operate Westwood Fine Carpentry out of an oversized one-car garage in La Crescent. So to say the least, without being able to show you photos of that, I'm crunched for space in terms of being able to fabricate anything. But I will say the nature of Westwood Fine Carpentry is essentially focuses on interior trim projects, possibly fabrication of cabinets, custom-made furniture. It's really a custom-oriented type business. And really, what I'm looking to do is, I'm currently with Westwood. I'm a very small-time operation, and I'm just looking to take it to like a small-time operation. So really, the purpose and intent of the wood shop is to better facilitate the operation of Westwood Fine Carpentry, giving me a larger carpentry workshop to build and make items that people would hire me to build and make, and then to also to store wood materials and other materials that would go into these items that I would be hired to make. A large part of Westwood Fine Carpentry is, for me, is done on a job site out of the shop. So there's actually a larger percentage of the work that I perform that's done on a job site and not in the shop. So I would say the primary purposes of this wood shop would be for a carpentry shop for Westwood, also to provide an indoor shop and storage space for our personal use, and also to facilitate the construction of the proposed dwelling, allowing for a carpentry shop space for all of the needs for the proposed dwelling, as well as to store materials for that as well. The other purpose that I would like to have with the shop is a space to park an 18-foot trailer at a minimum. So I'm looking for a sizable portion of the indoor space of that shop to be able to park a trailer. The only association that Resource Vintage Rental would have with this structure would be to build and or maintain items within our rental inventory. So part of the appeal of Resource Vintage Rental is that we have made a number of items that we rent out ourselves, such as wood tables, other types of backdrops and props and arbors and this sort of thing. There will be really no operation of the business of Resource Vintage Rental out of this structure. The main reason for that is that we need, well, our current storage space in West Salem is between 2,500 and 3,000 square feet for the storage of our rental items. And actually that is kind of becoming not enough for us as that business grows. So this proposed structure, it simply wouldn't work for us to operate Resource Vintage Rental from that. It works best for us to host clients at our warehouse for Resource Vintage Rental, so that they can come and look at our inventory, and all of our rental deliveries and any rental pickups and returns are all done from that warehouse. So it wouldn't work for us at all to store part of our rental inventory in this shop. There simply wouldn't be room for it. And it would just cause too many complications for us. So, so again, the only association that Resource Vintage Rental would have would be the use of the carpentry shop to make new items and to maintain. Sometimes we have to, an item needs to be fixed or maintained or something like that. So this shop could serve that purpose as well. We really don't desire to have customers come here and meet us here. We don't desire people to come off the highway, random passersby, that sort of thing. We really don't intend to have any sort of a sign out front advertising the business. It is strictly a shop to facilitate my woodworking is what it's for. I would also like to add that we are sensitive to our neighbors' concerns. We appreciate their input on this. We intend for this structure to be a beautiful structure. We intend for it to appear as if it belongs with the landscape, that it blends in with the landscape, that it grew there in essence. We're sensitive to the fact that County One is a scenic byway, and that people who drive down County One, their perceptions of the properties on County One are that they are well-kept and high-valued properties. And we certainly want to help add to that perception. We would hope that this structure and the structure of our dwelling would help to add value to our neighbors' properties by creating a property that is looks beautiful and is well maintained. We at the meeting earlier today with the Board of Adjustment, we also addressed some of the noise abatements and dust collection and ventilation type mitigations that would be in place, such as this structure would be a fully insulated and even an over insulated structure where the vast majority of the work would take place inside the structure. The work at the wood shop would be intermittent. As I said before, a fair amount of the work is done. I would say even a majority of the work is done off-site at a job site. What else can I?
And the adjusted footprint and just overall size.
So we had asked initially for a approval for a footprint of 45 by 60 feet. And we've adjusted that down a bit as we've kind of progressed along in some of our initial design and conceptual, just sort of our initial design considerations. So we're looking at more like a 42 by 56 footprint, which, you know, that's still subject to cost considerations. Did you want to show some of these updated concepts of what it would look like?
And this might be more appropriate for the board. Again, this is Megan Cabley. We do have kind of updated concept drawings for the shop. If you guys would like to see that, I didn't provide it for the packet, but it is available for you unless you want to not consider that for the petition.
Something here. Those?
Yes, that's a concept drawing, and I do have an updated version of that,
Okay,
but it's not too far from that.
Okay, now what about the house and the steep hill and what we're here for?
So, slope considerations.
As far as,
What we had talked about.
okay. As far as the sort of the site plan, kind of our thinking as we kind of develop this idea is that the proposed dwelling would work better farther down the slope where the slopes increase. And the reason for that is that would be, like a built more into the hillside, a walkout type of multi-level structure, where the wood shop would work better as a one-level type structure with a concrete slab. It would work a lot better to build that up higher where the slopes are not quite, I think up there where the proposed shop is, we're between 6 and 10% slope. Down where the proposed dwelling is, that's more in that 14 to 18 or 14 to 16% range. As far as the orientation of the driveway, we felt that this is the best design to minimize the amount of driveway there is, to minimize the amount of disturbance. If,
Trailer.
yeah, if I may, the biggest consideration would be pulling into the driveway with a trailer and being able to back that trailer up to the shop, where in this design, we would be able to pull in like this and then back up to the shop. We had considered flipping the shop on the other side here. And what that would require is a longer pull-out drive here so that we could pull in and then back up to the shop there. It would also push this part of the driveway down further and to have it come around to the idea here. This isn't exactly accurate, but the idea here is that this may be somewhat of the shape the house would be, but the garage to the house would be more on this corner on the sort of the north side where the driveway would come around and into that garage. The other consideration I would say with the shop being in this location here is the larger overhead doors would be on this side of the building, thus being on the opposite side of the building to the neighbors, so that if these doors were open and there were power tools being used inside, that noise is better abated than if this shop was flipped around and those doors were open facing north. We were asked by the Board of Adjustment today, why couldn't the shop be flipped down here and the house up here? And that would create a lot of problems with bringing a trailer down this drive and being able to back that trailer up to the shop down here. in addition, as I said before, the shop being on one level works better on those less steep slopes than down here where the slope is steeper. So that's kind of the overall thinking that we had in terms of laying out the site and the site plan.
All right, anyone have any questions for the petitioner?
You were mentioning a multi-storied on the slope house. So the garage would be at a higher level than the home?
The garage to the home would essentially be at the same level as the upper floor of the house. So if the house was a 2-level house, then the garage would be just connected but directly adjacent at more or less the same level.
Any other questions?
Chime in with, so both, we have, unfortunately, we have regulations. I think it says the total building height can be no more than 35 feet.
Correct.
Okay, so does that allow for your on your house and this extra, this extra rise in the shed? What's
Yep.
the tallest that shed would be then?
That's at about 27 feet right now.
Okay,
I wouldn't expect it to go higher than that.
okay, because there are restrictions.
Yep. And what's nice about, as Lou alluded to, along the highway, there's a berm that runs parallel to the highway that was created in the construction of the highway, the digging of the ditch, I believe. And there's a very nice row of trees, conifers, pine trees, and other types of trees along there. And we would have no intention whatsoever of really removing any of that vegetation. Because we would value privacy from the highway as much as possible as well. What we would want is for anyone driving by on the road to, if they would first notice a shop building, to think, oh, that's a beautiful building there, something that fits with the neighborhood, what's in the neighborhood, or what would somebody might expect to fit, like historically, architecturally, that sort of thing. We're definitely looking at using a mix of exterior coverings, wood siding, possibly stone accents, large overhangs, just something that is just very visually appealing. What we don't want to build is just a shed that's just covered in metal and just looks like a farm shed. The other thing that I have no intention of having is some type of a factory situation. That's not my intention at all. So.
Anybody else have any questions for him? Okay, thank you. Motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Louis made the motion and Eugene seconded it. The public hearing, all in favor of open the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. If anyone wishes to speak for or against the petition, please step forward, state your name and address and what you'd like to say. Okay, isn't in here. Ann, are you listening? Is anyone online?
They're all in the hallway.
Oh, they're all in the hallway?
It says 5 participants, but I don't.
Hi, guys. Nope, I don't see anyone online.
Okay,
You may have to chase them.
No, they're here for another
yeah,
meeting.
there's a meeting right
I think
there.
first-
Okay. If anyone wishes to speak for or against a petition, please step forward, state your name and address and what you'd like to say. Yes.
Is this, are we supposed to consider these written comments at this time, or is that after this?
Well, they're part of the, but this is the public hearing right now.
Yeah.
This is the public hearing.
All right, but we discussed them and.
Right after we close the public.
All right.
For
gotcha.
the third and final time, anyone out there in the public would like to speak for or against a petition, please step forward and what you'd have to say. Eugene.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Eugene moved to close the public hearing and Jordan seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. It passed. Okay, public hearing is now closed. Okay, Eugene, now you can bring forth the letters that were written.
I guess I'm gonna make a comment first. As most of you well know, I've been involved in planning and zoning since, I believe it was 1972.
19 or 18?
It's bad enough
It's
19.
been a while, okay.
And from my last stint on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I reaffirmed my gut feeling that when we okay a CUP, we are basically giving the person that gets the CUP a blank check. And through inadequate staffing and funding, I have come to see an awful lot of cases of abuse of this blank check philosophy. Now, I'm not overly concerned about that in this case, but privately, if you want me to take up a lot of your time, I could tell you some real zingers. Okay, I guess, is it allowable, going back to that slide that was up there?
Which one?
The one that had the shed and the house and then the building property in the corner.
I want to go back to one of the maps there. Okay. That one?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, this dwelling and whatever is there is, that's basically the same. What's the part to the right there is,
You want a larger view? So you
Yeah,
can see every
I would
property?
appreciate
You go
that.
back another.
In the existing homestead?
Go back.
yeah.
Those are big houses with
Oh,
big
there you go.
garages, but they were all permitted prior to the most recent zoning ordinance. So they were allowed back in the probably
Those were, most of those were permitted in the late 80s.
late 80s, but it was prior to the most recent adoption of all the
Right, it was
rules.
actually, a lot of those were split prior to the quarter section being adopted in
Right.
like 87, I want to say. And so they were split then so that they could get in more dwellings per quarter.
This is that parcel.
And they're all 5 acres, 300 feet of road frontage to conform with the subdivision regulations. So they were, go ahead, Louis.
Essentially, this would be grandfathered in to this zoning and planning that's been done since then, right? Is that what I can proceed to say?
Yeah, the neighboring dwellings were all permitted under different zoning ordinances.
Not
So,
maybe this one, but all the other parcels that are.
The other
so
parcels they weren't grandfathered. They met existing conditions at the time is what I
But
understand.
I mean, they can't change it from,
Oh,
that's what I'm getting at by being
Grandfather,
grandfathered.
no.
okay.
Grandfathered
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
That's all I'm, to be clear, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this
Yep.
was a new parcel just in 2022.
right, it was split just, I believe, last year. and went on the market. So that's why we're looking at the, less than 40 acres. It's a new parcel. All the ones that you see that are for new dwellings on less than 40 acres are going to be new parcels since 2011. If they were a parcel prior to 2011, then they'd be a parcel of record, and that requirement wouldn't be there for that.
Okay. Did you get all your questions answered, Eugene, or you still got some more?
If somebody else has some questions, you can come back to me.
Okay.
I've got a couple. With your comments and the way I read this, and most of the verbiage here says house and woodshed, house and woodshed. So if we weren't talking a house today, I mean, does each building need its own building permit?
Right, they'll need
'Cause
to
it's
get
not an
construction
ag-
permits.
Right, because the wood shop is not this is an ag natural resources, and you'd still need a permit if you're putting up a
Any
ag shed,
structure, even
any
an agricultural
Okay.
structure.
So
would
we
need a
still
permit.
need a permit for the wood shed, and we need a permit for the house.
Correct.
And today, the variance board just said that they could build, see, I'm a little confused, that they could build closer to the road than normally would be allowed.
But
So,
we don't give permits. All we
well,
can do
we're
is,
giving them permission to get a permit.
we're giving them permission, but not on that building. We are dealing with the house and only the house.
Well, how do we, so I'm still confused then. We need to, my neighborhood I've gotten calls. and
I'm
concerns,
sure, but
So I have to protect the
I
the
don't know.
neighborhood.
Am I
So-
wrong? Am I wrong in my thinking here?
Well,
I mean,
I'm not thinking the
because-
same as you because
because
how do
I'm
we?
looking at what we're legally obligated and what's brought before us. And
But
them are the
any
three things.
structure-
It's
But any
no,
structure we say
Dwelling,
where they
dwelling
can.
on less than 40 acres, steep slopes.
And where are you reading, Mark? Why am I confused?
Well,
Because
he
it
went
just-
over the three things that are
But
on
where-
the
where are
docket
you-
and then
what
too
are you
close to
reading?
the
What are you reading?
the
What
agenda.
page?
There's no page.
But why everything I read says house and woodshed, house and woodshed?
Because they're being proposed together. I think what would be appropriate to talk about would be things that are related to the Mississippi River Bluffs overlay districts. The reason that we're here is because the home is within that area though, not the woodshed per se.
Oh, the woodshed's
But,
closer to the bluff than the home.
Nope, no, it isn't.
It's the other way.
It's
Closer to the
Well,
road.
you've got bluff, go back to your picture of bluff and bluff.
Yeah, it's on each side.
Yeah, where's the
it's
picture
still-
of the bluff and the
The
bluff?
house is on a Razorback.
Well, the wood shop.
Yeah, so there's bluffs across
both
the
sides.
road
On the east side and
on
the
the
west
east
side,
side.
right?
And then there's bluffs on the near side that they're on. And so those are the closer bluffs, are the western,
Okay,
or
we'll
the
find it
side
here.
west of County Road 1. So there's here, let me take this with me.
But I
Um,
thought when you explained it, it was within the 300 feet,
There's bluffs over here,
right?
which
Mhm.
don't trigger, they're not within 300 feet of those
Oh, I
bluffs.
thought, I
There you go,
apologize,
right
and I
there.
thought you said it was
No.
within the 300 feet.
So the 300 feet of those bluffs actually comes to like around here, around the County Road 1 area, this way. So this is actually from these bluffs down here. That's the 300 feet from those, and that's where the home is within that, and the wood shop is partially within that as well.
So wouldn't it, I mean, if part of it's in, isn't the whole structure in? I
Yes,
mean, you can't exempt half a shed.
Well, we're not exempting them. We're just not saying that the criteria that you're considering for approving the CUP is really not for the wood shop. It's really to make this a building site for a dwelling. The wood shop is an accessory structure to the primary use of a dwelling.
And the neighbors have more of an issue with the wood shop than they do a house. The wood shop is what's driving the discussion of this whole project. So
That
that's why I
seems to
want to
be the
make
case.
perfectly clear that if half of that wood shed is in and again, I didn't support all that bluff stuff, but it's what we have to enforce and we have to be uniform and consistent. So if half of that wood shed is within the and the blue line is the 300 feet from the bluff to the west? So if it's half in the, I mean, I think the whole shed has to be met to those standards then, yes?
Well, it'll meet the standards in the zoning ordinance. Yes, and that's not really your purview. Those aren't really part of the CUP. Those are things that we'll review a final construction plan and issue our development certificate. We'll be making sure that lighting is no higher than 8 feet and that it's downcast. We'll be making sure that the materials that it's built on are earth tone and they're not reflective. There's a number of criteria that are in the ordinance that we'll be checking off on, that they'll be submitting information for their final construction plans. And that's really an administrative function. That's what the planning department does
Because you
on
could,
a regular
you
basis,
could build an
whether,
accessory structure within 300 feet of the bluff top, correct?
yes.
So you don't, need it's only a dwelling you can't build within.
The dwelling is the only thing that's
The dwelling,
triggering
Yes.
their need to come before you tonight.
Well, I interpret it somewhat different and
I mean,
my neighbors are.
the wood shop is part of the package though, you're right, because it's
You're
an
right.
accessory to the dwelling.
Right, if you didn't have the dwelling, you couldn't build the accessory structure, correct?
Good.
You
Sure.
could they
You
just
wouldn't
build
even
the?
be here.
Well,
for that.
no,
They would
so,
have to
No,
been there,
would
but-
that,
so it depends on the use of the wood shop. So the wood shop has to be, there has to be a primary use on the property. And in this case, the primary use would be the dwelling.
okay.
So
let's-
without
let's
the
say-
dwelling,
Yeah, without the dwelling,
you couldn't have an accessory to nothing. So
okay,
that structure could be allowed as an agricultural structure if it was being used for agricultural purposes.
okay.
And
but-
we've interpreted that to mean structures that are primarily used for maintaining the property. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to have a tractor in it. It doesn't need to have, be for grain storage or something that's like a typical agricultural use that you would think of. But it does need to be something that they're using for maintenance of that property.
None of that
um,
that isn't the intent of this application.
that's
None
not
of
the
that was
intent, no.
discussed. So part of the neighborhood is concerned of timing. And I understand they want to build the woodshed first, then the house. And, for convenience, and I understand all that, but there was some concern, and I think Ed Walsh concerned that. I listened in at the Board of Adjustment. So say they decide they can't afford to build the house. So now we've got this wood shop sitting on this parcel that we've approved or not approved. I guess I'm confused here and such. I mean, we take all the people in there at their word. And my other comment is that I'm seeing little quote agricultural sheds go up that look like maybe they're more than just an agricultural shed with the style of windows and the doors and everything that are going up. And I can understand why people want to, downsize their housing and live in different things. But there again, that's some of the concern of the neighborhood.
I understand that there's concerns, but we really have to go on what's being presented to us and what the
But a
what the
condition,
applicants are proposing.
okay, so another thought then, okay, so this shed, this wood shop is not a CUP. The shop is not CUP, right? Is what you're telling me.
Not really, no.
Okay,
But it is
So-
part of the house.
It's part of the
parcel.
development
Parcel.
proposal,
The reason why they're getting a CUP.
but we're
but
talking about.
Mark's saying we
allowing
don't
it.
have anything to do
It's
with the
part
wood
of
shed.
it.
Well, it's
I think
not-
that we're
it's
making things
it's
too
not in
complicated.
our
If we can just
purview.
we're considering whether we make this a dwelling location. That's what we're here to do tonight.
Right.
Now
That's what we're here to
That's a
do.
new term you're using, dwelling location.
No, it's the same. I think it's the same thing we've been talking about all night. Let's not make it harder than it needs to be, Marcia.
Right.
Well, but I've got neighbors that are very concerned, and so I have to answer to the neighborhood, and they will be neighbors and constituents, but so I got to figure this all out so I can explain it to the people that are upset. So I'm sorry, again, so if a conditional use permit goes with the land, say they, 5-10 years down the road, they decide to sell it. So it would still be allowed only to be used as but you're saying it isn't under the CUP. They could use it for anything they want?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm confused.
and planning commission members. So the proposal as we have it before us, if this body should choose to approve it, is then subject to needing to obtain a development certificate from the department, which is our equivalent in Winona County of a building permit. So we aren't going to let just a shed get built or a proposed wood shop, because they will need to submit plans at the same time for an approved septic system design and a septic permit for the dwelling or house, whichever you prefer to call it, at the same time, because otherwise there would be lots of things popping up that are just agricultural sheds or fancy sheds or woodworking sheds or whatever you want to call it, without the primary dwelling, which is not permitted. So if they come in with the wood shop plans without the other two pieces, just like other petitions that we have reviewed in the department, that will not be acceptable. So they have, I believe it's up to 5 years, Lou's better on this part of it, to get the house built. We generally give them, is it 6 months or a year grace period in case something comes up? Is it a little bit more?
When we're.
With the
Permit's
development
good for
certificate.
5 years.
That's good for 5 years.
But I mean, there have been times where something happened, supply chain issues or something like that. So they have a little bit of grace period time. Usually doesn't take that long, or maybe interest rates could affect things. But typically we have things going together, the suite of things, the primary dwelling, an accessory structure, whatever we want to name it, and the approved septic. And as you saw in the email, and I printed one for Commissioner Ward. The septic is subject to the rules of the state of Minnesota. Lou and Eric are certified septic inspectors, and they would work with the septic installer, the petitioner would. So if that's helpful at all, I just had a couple little tidbits, so I hope that helps.
I would like to stick with what we are here for, and that's building a house on less than 40 acres. That's number one. Number two, building on steep slopes, the house. And number three, within 300 feet of the top of the bluff. That is what we are here for. The other thing was brought up this afternoon, and that was taken care of. Eugene.
Now, according to this letter from Steve Bowen, and I have no idea, it's in our packets, that he has a question here. It also appears that this petition is a continuation of previous petitions regarding the same property. Is there an answer to that question?
We're not aware of any other petitions that have been centered around this property whatsoever. So yeah, I have no idea what that's pertaining to.
I have no idea. No knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussions?
We gotta go through the findings of fact and everything, don't we, first?
We don't have to go through them one by one if we don't want to.
Well, yeah, but we still gotta discuss it, right?
If you'd like, what would you like to discuss?
I don't personally have anything that I'd like to discuss.
Okay,
But
and the conditions.
I would
We have
second
we
that.
have a motion and a second to approve with the findings of fact and the conditions as presented. More discussion? Or any more discussion?
I will not, I don't have all my answers thought out in my head. And of course, this is just a recommendation to the
Mhm.
full county board.
Mhm.
I still have issues with the wood shop and even the way that some of the materials presented in here that
You mean for what we're looking at or the wood shop?
what the county board has to approve
Yeah.
as far as a conditional use permit regarding this parcel. Okay, and there's multiple
Multiple
things
parts, yes.
with the parcel. So again, I'm not locked into the same three things that you are, because again, I'm seeing a lot more sheds go up and things happening. And again, are we supposed to be controlling this? Or are we supposed to be, as Gene says, giving them a blank check? It has long-term implications because a conditional use permit goes with the property. So again, moving forward, if for some reason, things change and 5 years down the road, they do not live there, the person knowing it, do they realize it can only be used
Without coming back for
yeah,
another
as
permit?
a wood shop? I mean,
What's bothering me is we have not talked about three things. One, too close to the bluff top, two, steep slopes, and three, a house on less than 40 acres. We haven't discussed any one of the things that we're supposed to be here discussing.
I would like to just say one thing, based on what you said, if the property changes hands, the permit goes with it. Just because it's labeled as a wood shop doesn't mean that it needs to be used as a wood shop in the future. You know, there's lots of permitted uses in the ordinance. It can be used for any of those permitted uses.
That-
Correct?
That's a little scary
Yeah.
too.
Well, that's the same with any property in the county.
It is, and the neighbors don't like change.
The way it's proposed is what it seems to me is that if the dwelling goes in and they have the house, then they could work on the wood shop, or if they go in simultaneously, I wouldn't see any problem with it. But I believe that'd be best handled in zoning and planning department in this county,
Or at the
But-
county board level.
or county board level.
But to address your issue, I haven't seen one petition denied for the parameters that you're, talking about. Less than 40 acres, I think.
Yes, we have
everything-
denied them at this board level. The county board didn't follow suit and
Okay.
they overruled us.
Which is the
We had a
prerogative of the county
unanimous-
board.
exactly,
Which one,
exactly.
which one, remind me.
It was the
One by
Mitch Walsh-
Enterprise, Mitch Welch's by Enterprise, where he
Welch's.
bought Eddie Peterson's
Oh,
old
okay,
house.
yeah, okay.
And so, yeah,
Thank you, Mark.
There's been more
Yeah.
than one.
there's
Yeah.
been more than one,
For
but,
years.
But, okay, so.
so we have denied them and the county board has turned around and said,
Right.
oh, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's your prerogative. I understand that.
Now, the steep slope, can they address by design and engineering the steep slope issues? I mean, it does drop off quite a bit, and it's 18, quite a bit of the lot.
Yeah, I'd like to talk on that.
Okay.
I had brought it up earlier today at our meeting. But this makes sense to me to do things this way. To build the house into the slope is gonna require moving a lot less dirt than to create a flat area over the slope. And then you're gonna have even a steeper slope in addition to that. So not only are you mitigating the erosion issue there, but you're also, creating a lower profile for the house altogether as far as view shed is concerned.
You're working with what lay of the land you have instead of having to change it,
Yeah,
which is a lot easier in construction.
yeah,
And less chance of erosion as well.
yeah, which is
Moving less
the
dirt.
major concern with the steepness there.
But all parcels are technically not buildable. And we're trying to make a parcel buildable.
They are, yes.
Sometimes some parcels shouldn't be built on.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Allowed.
they could stick the house up on top. But then it's gonna stick out more than if it's built into the hillside, so the building on the slope seems to make more sense to me.
I agree, less erosion, less earth moving. Maintain some of the root structure of the wooded site will definitely.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, from my point of view, they're taking no tillable land out of production. I like to see that. And it's really, I mean, for a parcel, it's, when you look at it, to me, it looks like a perfect spot for a house.
That's what I thought. I thought it was, it's just a little corner. And the design makes sense with the drive and being able to move the trailer.
Yeah, I think if this same petition had been brought forward with no mention of a wood shop, it would fit right in with the neighborhood and everything would be fine. And then you could just, the wood shop would still be permitted and you
Pop it up later.
just do it later. So I don't see any reason to consider that part of it at all. Because any one of the neighbors could just
Well, I haven't
operate a
heard-
wood shop out
tonight,
of their
I haven't heard
garage.
anything from anybody. Nobody came.
Well, they came,
Well, they
one couple
brought us a
came-
letter.
One couple came to the Board of Adjustment.
I know, but that was for a different thing.
Well, but it's all related, Mark.
Oh,
It's
it's
all
not.
related. Now, there is
We
one.
each
there
have our
is-
own role.
There is one concern, and it's not just this application and such, but I did have concern from the township calling me after they heard from some of the neighbors, and it's all a matter of timing. and that's something that staff can work on, is when the neighbors get the notice to know that they should go to the township. A lot of times, I don't know if it's the timing of when they get the notices or it's unclear. They express that, and then the township, now, did you go to the township, Lou, and explain this? Somebody from staff always goes to the township, correct?
No.
Or you just mail it to them?
The township's noticing of its activities is not the responsibility of the planning department of Winona County, and staff members do not attend township meetings. There's a lot of townships and a lot of township meetings. We often attend the aggregate township officers meetings when we can and when time permits. Their noticing or lack thereof of anything that is going before them to be heard is their responsibility.
Well, I guess I'm unclear. They sign off on that form. They can either say nothing or they can approve or disapprove. What
No,
do
they
get?
can provide no comment.
Yeah, no comment.
Or they can disapprove or approve, yes.
And what, do they get the entire packet?
The packet is developed for this board or for the Board of Adjustment by us. The petitioner's responsibility is to go and present what they intend to do to the township. It does not interface with our packet. We do not send the packet out. Oftentimes, the packet is under development at the time that the township, in order for the timing to be right for this deliberative body to hear this petition. So the two of them only intersect if the township officers choose to call us and ask some questions, which absolutely never happens. We never have anyone ask us any
They
questions,
should.
and we are very willing and able to answer any questions they may have after they receive materials from petitioners. We get no calls from them, but we're at their service should we get a call. So thank you.
No, I understand that. But it's
Concerned
a-
residents should just be regularly attending the township meetings. That's what I got out of going to those. Concerned neighbor that wants to know what's going on in their neighborhood, they should be regularly attending meetings.
I don't disagree, but we know how townships work.
But the agenda for the township is posted a week before the meeting.
Okay.
With what's happening there. So anyone that's interested in the township, if they're interested and truly interested in their neighbors, they read that.
Yep.
And then
When I
they
go
show
to
up at the
meetings.
meeting.
What I'm questioning is when the neighbors get the timing is what I'm questioning. Okay, we send notice to the township. Yes, they put it on their meeting agenda. But if you look at some of the dates here, they're very close. So when
They're
does the
confused.
neighborhood?
The
when does the
county does
neighborhood
not,
get
the
their
county
information?
does not
Initiate.
send anything to the township. The petitioner sends it to the.
Right,
to the-
so it's a matter of time. Okay, it's a matter
And-
of timing.
The
And it
neighbors
has to
need to
be a
attend
week
the meetings.
before,
Regularly.
and then the township is posted.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
I
that if you're
understand all
interested
that.
in what's going on, you better pay attention. If you're not paying attention, then you're gonna be
Missing it.
Okay,
missing it.
but-
And then
but
they're
if
gonna
you
say,
get-
well, they should have told us that a week ago. And they said, well, here's the meeting.
Okay,
It's.
again,
well,
I'm
you weren't there.
questioning when the neighborhood gets there. We notify neighbors, correct? We do a circle
County
around
does.
neighbors. And it's the matter of when the neighbors get their notice to know that it's going to the township, because there's a timing issue there. That's something we have to work on.
No.
I don't think the neighbors, do the neighbors get it? So I understand and I agree, you went to the township, you did your due diligence. But what date did you, if we want to get into the particulars, what date did you go to the township? And what date did the packets get mailed out to the neighborhood?
There is no, it doesn't matter. You can
Yes,
go to
it
the
does.
township 6 months before you're
No.
going to do anything. And you can
It does.
apply and you can go months before you ever take it to the county. You
Mr.
do
Chair,
not have to do it just like that. You can go months before. Yes.
thank you. So we receive from the townships a township acknowledgement form. So we, in the planning department and for the packets, we either can assume that the majority of that deliberative body has made the decision that they send to us, or we assume they're lying. And so since we have never had this issue come up before, but we have had an issue come up before where individual members who may or may not have been in support of it have been either approached or had their driveways driven down and, hey, what did you think? That's fine. That happens all the time. I grew up in a rural area myself. But we have to use what we receive as the official document from the township. And this official document said no comment. The bulk of what we received from this particular township does say no comment. I presume they're reading the petitions and they have a petitioner before them. But we do not do their noticing for them because, as you point out, they could be meeting months before or maybe just very recently before. So I hope that clarifies things and doesn't muddy the water. And sorry for jumping up again, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion to bring brought forth before we have a motion and a second to approve with the conditions and, oh, what's the other word I can? Findings of fact, thank you. Any other discussion of any of them things? If not, I will call the vote. All in favor of approving this, say aye.
I
Opposed, please say nay.
Hey,
Roll call vote. Please, all in favor of approving this, raise your hand. Jordan. Can't even remember my own name. Mark, Louis, and Lynn. Thank you. Yay. All those who oppose this, please raise your hand. We have Eugene and Marcia. The motion passed. Congratulations, your nightmare continues on Tuesday, March 14th at 9 a.m. to the county board meeting. Good luck. Good wishes, and all that good stuff. It gets complicated, doesn't it? Should be so simple, but it's so complicated.
I like their project, and I don't know if you're considering solar tubes in your wood shop, but those things are awesome. If you've got clear sky above, it's like passive solar and it's great light.
Alrighty. Board of Adjustment update from Jordan.
As you all know, we approved setback from County Road 1 earlier today for this same petitioner.
Okay, county board.
Think
That's
anything,
you, nothing.
been anything recently?
Okay,
I move we adjourn.
Second.
the motion, a second to adjourn. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.